Gladys was played by Amy Madigan, and let me tell you, she earned her spot in the God I Hate That Old Hall of Fame. At exactly 2:17 a.m., every kid in Mrs. Gandy's class got up, walked downstairs, opened the front door, and vanished into the night, never to be seen again. That's just the start of Weapons, a horror movie that mixes scare, laughs in a way only Zach Cregger can pull off. But does it live up to the hype? Is your casual cinema bro? Let's dive in. Zach Cregger proved he belongs with the other great horror storytellers of this generation. Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, Mike Flanagan, Robert Eggers. Compared to Barbarian, Weapons was a bigger in cast, marketing, and overall story. He does a great job of balancing horror and comedy, which isn't easy at all. Like, for example, we have a dream sequence where Josh Brolin's character is dreaming of his son, and towards the end of the dream, we get a jump scare of Gladys, which shocks the whole theater. But right after that comes Brolin waking up screaming exactly what we're all thinking.
What the fuck?
Or we have the gas station chase scene between Julia Garner and the possessed Benedict Wong. The cashier's yelling at them to get out the way and get out the store while Julia turns around and shouts, "Can you fucking help me?" You know, we got to credit Zach Cregger for balancing suspense and tension while still letting the audience breathe with a laugh. The acting in this movie was solid. The standouts being Gladys and Alex. Gladys was played by Amy Madigan, and let me tell you, she earned her spot in the God I Hate That Old Hall of Fame. She'll be joining Kathy Bates from Misery, Esther from Orphans, Mrs. Voorhees from Friday the 13th, and all the other old we hate in horror. But in all seriousness, Amy killed this role. She looked creepy. At one point, I thought we were dealing with a clown instead of a witch. She was cruel, calculated. She was just a literal monster. Shout out to Alex, played by Cary Christopher. He did such a great job. I truly felt bad for him. He seemed like a kid that was already getting picked on at school, but hey, at least he had a great home life until fucking Gladys showed up and starts making everyone her puppet. Now Alex is forced to serve 19 people Campbell's chicken noodle soup with the same spoon. I'm telling you, I never saw him use a different spoon or wash it. And due to the acting from those characters, this movie delivers a satisfying third act, where we find our heroes entering Alex's home to find the kids, and from here on out, it's complete chaos. So much is going on in these scenes. Once again, Cregger is able to mix comedy and horror. You have Alex running away from his parents, Justine fighting her ex-cop boyfriend, the suspense on whether those characters would survive, but then you have Josh Brolin repeatedly manhandling the town meth head. He's great at what he does when he's balancing these two things. You're on the edge of your seat, but you're also chuckling at the same time. But then we get the cherry on top. Alex uses Gladys's dark magic against her, leading to the best chase scene of this year. I'm calling it now. All 17 possessed kids chased that old hag down. It was beautifully shot. The kids were bursting through doors, windows, and the whole sequence keeps you on the edge of your seat, either scared or cheering. Now, I hate to do it. This movie wasn't perfect. We gotta talk about the bad. The creepiness and scares started out hot, but cooled off in the second and third acts of this film. I really enjoyed the scenes of Alex's mom walking out the house to cut Julia's hair. The way she walked and approached a sleeping Julia was terrifying. I wish we had more moments like that, or more sequences of Gladys showing up in these characters' dreams. I also wasn't a big fan of the multiple point of views, the episodic storytelling, as you might say. At times, it just felt like filler. It felt like I was being served water and breadsticks before the main meal. I get each perspective was supposed to fill in gaps or show us the how and the why, but the payoff wasn't worth it with the time we spent with some stories, like Officer Morgan and James the Meth Head. Their segments seemed dragged out a little bit. You know, Cregger's use of comedy kept them entertaining, but it couldn't hide the fact that some of the perspective felt unimportant to me. Now, was this movie a modern day horror classic? I'll be honest, I don't think Weapons lives up to the hype of a modern day horror classic, at least not on the first watch. I left the theater feeling a little underwhelmed. It was good, but it wasn't the movie I expected. It also doesn't help that Weapons felt like a Jordan Peele's Get Out and Us, just without the racial themes. You know, the horror and comedy tone is very similar. You have Miss Armitage using her teacup and spoon to send characters to the sunken place versus Aunt Gladys doing basically the same thing, as long as she had a bowl of water, a person of belonging, and her bell. Then you have the tethered and the possessed characters Gladys control. Both movements are jerky, aggressive, grunting and screaming, and I might be reaching on this last comparison here. Hey, but both movies feature scissors. That's all I'm going to say. Overall, this isn't a horror classic, at least not yet. There are a few things holding it back. Zach leaves Aunt Gladys's backstory and powers too vague. There are still unanswered questions, And honestly, I don't know if a rewatch would help because I'm not even sure if this movie is going to be rewatchable after 2 viewings for me. But with that being said, Weapons doesn't need to be a classic to be worth watching. It's a good horror movie with a strong cast. It balances horror and comedy really well. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of the multiple point of views, the pacing stays solid considering how many characters there are. If you haven't seen Weapons, check it out and then come back and tell me what you think. If you have, drop your thoughts below. It's your casual cinema bro, and I'm out.